And we've got a treat for you tonight. We've got two awesome guys, Matt and Jamie, here from the Interplanetary Podcast. You don't want to hear me talk. You want to hear these guys talk. So I'm going to just give them a good, warm Spacestore welcome, and thank you guys so much.
We're going to play our music.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organise and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Do. Oh yeah, baby Kennedy.
Wow, that's nice. That's nice. John F. Kennedy there.
John F. Kennedy. Why are we saying it? Why are we saying going back to the moon this decade? Funnily enough, we're kind of going back to the moon within a decade. If the decade starts in 2020, we will be going back to the moon in that decade, or so they say.
This is it.
Yes. If you're wondering, the boy who talks in the title music is my son, so I'll give him a shout out.
It's Matt's son, George. Let's hear it for George. He's now, his voice is, how old is he now?
15.
Bit deeper voice now.
Yeah,
deeper
voice.
voice.
Here we go, the Interplanetary Podcast.
Yeah. Bloody Interplanetary Podcast, Dad.
That's what I do now. So, yes, there's your hosts. It's the other way around, look.
Yes, we should walk the other way around.
There we go.
Yeah.
Your hosts, Jamie Franklin, everyone, and me, Matt Russell.
My girlfriend thinks that's a scarily accurate image of me on the left. I don't know if you think that at all. Matt says it's because, what did you call my eyes earlier?
Little ratty eyes.
Yeah, little ratty eyes. Not very
but
nice.
I look a bit too much like George Lucas.
You do look like George Lucas. Yeah.
Right, here we go. So what we thought we'd talk about today, because we haven't really talked about this one at all on the podcast, well, not as much as we should have done, I suppose, is Artemis. So hands up who...
Show of hands.
Show of hands who knew about Artemis. We've only got one person. Two, three.
The Greek god. Goddess.
Yes, the Greek goddess. Okay, well, we go with that. Who's heard of the Greek goddess, Artemis? Artemis, yes, is a Greek goddess. Well, tell me a little bit more about Artemis. Who's she the sister of?
Sister of?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Artemis is the sister of Apollo, right? That's the whole point. So Artemis is the new space program of NASA, the American government, want to run Artemis. Artemis is the sister of Apollo, and it's now the return to the moon.
Matt, earlier on you were explaining to me, and I genuinely didn't know this, but the logo is more than we think.
Yeah.
Tell us about the logo.
Okay, so the logo, it's quite cool actually. All these sort of logos, they look quite like there's not much going on, but this logo is actually really cool. So the A of Artemis obviously is supposed to be quite similar to the A of Apollo, but there's some subtle differences. The A of Artemis is the spearhead of Artemis's spears, because as a Greek goddess she used to go around firing arrows at people, and it points slightly further than the moon in this picture. And the whole point is Artemis isn't about going to the moon, it's really about going to Mars, right? We'll get onto that in a minute. And you'll see obviously the moon's in the picture, but there's also a red line going to the moon. The red represents Mars, but not only does the red represent Mars, if you notice the way that it orbits towards the moon, it's going in the opposite direction to Apollo, and that's because it's the return to the moon. Yeah?
Good.
It's pretty clever, huh? And the blue of the Earth, which would be kind of like the Earth underneath, is also Artemis's bow, where all the energy and the resources for the mission come from, which is quite clever, isn't it? So that's Artemis, the logo.
Yeah.
But what about the mission?
Yeah.
So here we go.
Wait, after Matt told me that earlier, I thought I should try and hit him back with something I know about a logo. Does anyone know the bear in a Toblerone logo? Have you ever seen the bear? A few nods. For those who haven't, next time you see a Toblerone logo, you'll see a little bear. Very exciting.
But what's the
That was my bit of logo
But what's
knowledge.
the significance of the bear?
Well, I don't know. I haven't looked it up.
Oh, for goodness.
I looked it up.
Right. Before we do Artemis, though, a lot of people, and I think this is where a lot of the moon hoax stuff comes from. So a lot of people come up to me and say, well, why haven't we been back to the moon? What is it about Apollo that was so amazing that meant that we went to the moon 50 years ago and we haven't been back since 1972? And it's like, so I thought before we talked about Artemis, what is it that stops us, that means we haven't really been to the moon since? So this is my quick rundown. And the first one is the physics just isn't in our favour, right? So we are living on a planet that is pretty massive. In fact, it's absolutely huge. If it was much bigger, it might be that space travel would be impossible. So we're kind of just on the edge of space travel at all being possible. So the physics is super against us. So just a quick rundown. In fact, Jamie, blow up a balloon. In fact, who wants to blow up a balloon?
We've got 2 balloons here. Can I get a hand up? Who wants to join in the experiment? You look like you want to...
Come on, you look like a balloon bar. Remco's easily going to do.
One here. Right, if you can blow the balloons up for us, please. Don't
So-
tie it up.
So there is one genius, unfortunately he went to Cambridge University, not Oxford University. I know there's probably some kind of rivalry in where we are now.
me, guys.
Yeah. So anyway, Isaac Newton basically not discovered, but kind of wrote down 3 laws of motion. And essentially, what we're about to see are those 3 laws of motion put into action. So first of all, nothing moves unless you kind of unless a force is acting upon it. So it has to have an unbalanced force. Now with these balloons, at the moment, they're perfectly fine just sitting there because the air that's inside wants to get out, but the rubber's pushing it back in. So they'll sit there quite happily doing nothing, right? First law of Newton, it's just doing nothing. Right, one of you let go. In fact, let's go with red balloon. We got yes. Right. So what's happened? We've got like a force that's something has made that balloon move, and what's made that balloon move is that the air is rushing out, and a force is happening. We've now got an unbalanced force, right? And how?
Are you saying for every action there's a reaction?
Well, this is point 3. I was still doing point 2.
Oh, come on, hurry up.
So point 2 is something will move. There's a thing called force equals mass times acceleration. So a mass will accelerate as long as you've got a force behind it. So that's the second law of motion. And as Jamie rightly says, there's a third law that says for every action, there's an opposite reaction back to it. So as the air rushes out of the balloon rushes away from you and comes towards me. Now, that is literally the only way we can fly a rocket. It's the only way. You can build a space elevator, but apparently not. It's too difficult, right? You might be able to build a space elevator on the moon, but you can't do it on Earth. It's just out of the question at the moment with the materials that we've got. So you have to use Newton's 3 laws of motion. You can't climb up, you can't use friction, you've got to use that effect. So you'd think, well, just fill a rocket full of fuel, use all that force to push yourself off the planet. Well, yeah, that would be all well and good, but there's this pesky thing. Stupid Tsiolkovsky was this Russian who was actually very brainy. He's one of these weird people that sort of worked on his own and just did loads of stuff. If you ever want to look at a really cool person, Tsiolkovsky's a good one. Quite hard to spell, so you'll have to look it up. But I'm not going to do it. So Tsiolkovsky's rocket equation, and basically that bit of gnarly maths, basically says that he noticed that, yeah, you fill a rocket full of fuel, but you need the fuel to carry the fuel. And then so you put some more fuel on to carry the fuel, but then you need a bit more tank to carry the fuel that you're carrying the fuel with. So you say, okay, so you put the tank on, and then you go, oh no, but now I need fuel to carry the tank,
The
right?
bigger tank
yeah.
for more fuel.
And then you think, okay, that's okay, so you fill it with fuel, and then you think, man, no, but now I need fuel to carry the fuel that's in the tank that's carrying the fuel that's carrying the fuel.
Yeah.
And this just goes on and on and on, and it's really, really tedious, right? this is what's holding us back. This is why we haven't been to the moon for 50 years, because Apollo was insanely amazing that it managed to overcome that thing. Because imagine you've got this very, very heavy thing on the thing. You've also got to have enough force that actually gets it off the launch pad in the first place. And it's carrying a shed load of fuel. I'm going to show you an illustration of it, which I think is the best illustration of it in a second. But for me, it's the physics that kind of ruin space travel. So, have we come up with any new technology? Technology hasn't changed. Can you think of any technology that we've made in the last 50 years that changes it?
Anyone?
Anti-gravity?
Anti-gravity. If only. He's
got you.
I tell you what, yeah, he's got me. Has anyone invented anti-gravity? Because I tell you what, if you invented anti-gravity, there's been loads of proposals like you don't carry the fuel, you fire like a laser at a rocket and push it up that way. So there's things like that, but they've never got off the ground.
We've got
literally.
better computers, but that's not going to help here.
We have got better computers, but it doesn't solve the rocket equation, right? So, electric propulsion, well you go back to the second law, and that's how much thrust do you need to get something off the ground? And that's one of the big problems. You can use electric propulsion in outer space, and that's absolutely brilliant because that has revolutionized all those stuff that goes around Juno and stuff like that. In fact, did Juno have electric propulsion? I don't think it did. But Rosetta certainly did, and missions like that, where you have to go a very long distance. But that's more about economy of fuel, this thing called a specific impulse. But we won't go into that. But you need shed loads of thrust. And for Apollo, Werner von Braun, his solution was to have enormous rocket engines. When you see the F1, it's absolutely enormous. So that's just pumping thrust out, and it's just incredible amount of thrust. The Russians tried a different approach, which was having lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of rocket engines on the bottom, and they never got it to work, but Elon Musk has. So you could say there's one big shift in technology is what Elon Musk has done with multiple rockets on the bottom on the bottom of your booster.
How many rockets on Falcon Heavy?
Falcon Heavy is 27.
27 rockets.
Yeah, which is still slightly less than the N1. Does anyone know what the N1 was? I don't know, but it's, yeah, that's it. You have to fire every single rocket at exactly the right time. Anything goes wrong and you've stuffed it up big time, right?
Yes.
So technology hasn't really changed. We've got reusability, I suppose, another Elon Musk ting. So that's good. The Cold War. Why am I bringing up the Cold War? Well, one of the only reasons why America and Russia decided to build moon landing stuff was because they had to beat each other.
Space race.
In the space race, right? America was losing hideously at the space race. First man in space was Russian. First satellite was Russian. Space stations are Russian. And it's like, we are getting absolutely hammered. So the Americans, John F. Kennedy, that's what that John F. Kennedy speech was at the beginning. It's a political stance to say, we're going to beat the goddamn Ruskies. And it worked. I mean, at the end of the day, the moon landings going into the moon was perhaps the most.
It was pretty good.
It was one of the very first nails into communism and whatever you think. The Americans beat the Ruskies.
You mentioned moon hoaxes earlier, Matt.
Yeah.
I don't know if does anyone actually listen to our podcast? Just a show of hands. Well, maybe you will after.
Yes.
We have one person back. Two, three. Come on, Brit. 3. So we, a while ago now, maybe even 2 years, a couple of years ago, we did a double episode where we interviewed a guy called Marcus Allen who believes that we didn't go to the moon, and that it was all a hoax. And that was fun, wasn't it?
Well, I'm not selling.
So you'll have to go back and listen to that one.
To be fair, I'm not selling it here because it's like you would think in some ways. Yeah, it really is difficult. This like getting to the moon lark is difficult. Is there anyone here who actually doesn't believe we went to the moon? Who would dare say it? That's what I'm thinking. Don't do the fighty pose.
Definitely.
We got one. I think we got one. We think we got one. But yeah, it's the Cold War. I tell you what, actually, the Cold War is a really good one. If you want to, the moon hoax one is kind of debunked by the Cold War straight away because the Russians had the technology to track the Apollo landings, And it's like, well, clearly they tracked the Apollo landings. They would have been nothing more that they would have liked to have done in the whole world than to go, it's all a lie. But it wasn't. So let's move on.
Budgets.
We've got one. Sorry, we've got a question here.
No, it's just a comment. But I believe, though, it's not my view, but I have a feeling that if it wasn't for the space race, we would have many more Hiroshimas on Earth, I think Kennedy was very smart to divert the competition to the space.
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
nice little theory. Do you know, I've not thought about that before, but that's a cool little point.
Smart.
Yeah, that's
otherwise, we would have many more disasters on Earth.
Well, thank God for the space race.
Yeah.
I mean, before we get on to, Kennedy was a pretty good president, wasn't he, really? Which might be one of the things that we might get onto in a second. But yeah, budgets. The budget at some point for Apollo reached about 4 or 5% of the American GDP. They were spending an insane amount of money on Apollo. It was just not something that you could sustain. However, I would argue you could sustain it because it gave America mainframe computing, loads of management techniques. There's loads of stuff that got span out of the Apollo space mission that it's probably paid for itself hundreds and hundreds of times over. So even though it seems expensive to the taxpayer, in retrospect, it probably wasn't. But that's a kind of another story. But what do you do about a budget? NASA's budget at the moment is 0.4% of GDP or 0.46 or something like that. So it's in orders of magnitude smaller. So they've got to get to the moon with 1/10 of the money. But that might be feasible. So
That's why they're thinking of making engagement rings out of moon rock now, right?
yeah.
You've got to pay for it somehow.
Got to pay for it. So, well, you joke, but maybe that is...
No, it's not a joke.
No.
That's Moon
Okay.
Express's idea.
Moon Express's
What's our
idea,
mate?
yeah.
Bob Richards.
Bob Richards, yes. of
Who
Moon Express.
we spent
I like
ages trying to get
his
an
plugs.
interview for this guy called Bob Richards. And we finally got him, and then we realised when the interview was done, we high-fived each other. It was a great interview, and then we realised it hadn't recorded. Luckily, he was lovely and let us do it again a week later.
We did
So
that
we got
with
it in the bag.
We actually did that with Tim Peake as well.
Yeah, that one was less good.
But, yes. And I think one of the big ones is boredom as well. The Apollo missions, everyone had actually got bored by the end of it. No one remembers anyone other than Aldrin and Armstrong these days. I mean, I wonder, hands up who knows the name of the third person that was on the Apollo 11 mission. We got Collins. We got Collins. But yeah, I mean, there's only been 12 moonwalkers, and like to name them all is pretty difficult. So the interest just lost. Everyone just lost interest. And ever since then, all NASA have talked about is going to Mars. And then they've talked about not going to Mars. And then they've talked about going to Mars again. And there's never been like a clear thing to go and do. And plus, when you start to think about going to the moon being difficult, going to Mars is
It's tricky.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
I always say, imagine you decided to quickly walk across a stream at the bottom of your garden, and you did that, and you wrote, right, I'm ready to swim the Atlantic now. It's about the same sort of difference, I reckon. So this is my favourite illustration. If you're wondering what this...
really proud of this.
Yeah, I didn't do this, by the way. This is like a really cool illustration of basically the Newton's laws of motion. So this is how much fuel is being shot out the back of the Apollo missions, the Saturn V. It's hundreds and hundreds of elephants.
So these are elephants. Anyone know the amount to get us out of our gravity? Anyone know? Some whispering there. Anyone want to guess how many?
I know there's something different. Small statistic.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's 3 tons of burning 3 tons of fuel per second.
Yeah.
So how many elephants would you say that was,
I
sir?
have no idea.
Let me tell you. 763 elephants.
Yeah, 763
Good.
elephants to get out into low Earth orbit. So
4
that,
elephants.
and that's it. That's how it works. It's literally as the elephant gets shot out the back, it moves the Saturn V 1 elephant up.
Should we let the second balloon go? now, Matt?
Actually, let's let the second balloon go. So literally, imagine the mass. It's the mass of the air that's inside that balloon that's going to make the balloon go. And Oh, it's nowhere near as good as the other one. It's
Do they get hurt?
what?
Is it okay for the elephants?
No, they.
As you can see,
There's quite a lot of
it's
blood
quite
on the.
disturbing
Yeah,
image, isn't it?
there's a lot of blood on that. I'm sorry that they all died. Which is one of the reasons why they cancelled Apollo, because there was a lot of calls from animal rights people. But I think this picture of Apollo's also one that I saw recently, the Saturn V. Can you spot the man in the picture?
What?
Spot the man. Can you see the man in the picture? Because once you see him, you go, what the hell? Here he is. He's just a little man with his hard hat on. And look at how tiny he is. And then you think, yeah, the astronauts are sitting in this bit. There's another bit, the service module itself. And then there's all the lunar landing stuff in there. The rest of the rocket, the rest of what you can see, is basically just a tube full of fuel, right? That you're going to push out the back of your rocket engine as fast as possible.
Yeah, it's like an illusion. I don't know if I've told you, Matt, when I went to Houston.
Yeah, did you tell me about Houston? tell me about Houston.
Matt hates the fact that I've been to the NASA Houston Space Center. It's amazing. Has anyone been? Pretty cool, isn't it?
So you've stood next
So
to
you
the...
sort of you get to see the size of these things. It's amazing.
Standing next to Saturn V and standing next to the F1 engines is like, what the hell? They are just
Plus, you get to see the red phone.
the red phone.
Yeah, the one that they get to call the president on.
Oh, did they get a little
There's a
phone?
red phone with the NASA logo in there. It's genius.
It's quite cool, isn't it, that you go into space and then the first phone call you have to do is a quick phone call with the president.
Yeah, imagine that.
But
I think we've seen enough elephant deaths.
So here we go. Are we going to move on to
Talking of presidents.
that was Apollo. Trump. I like to call this section a vision of a genius.
It's all right. He's kidding. He's kidding.
Yeah, it was supposed to be up.
Is Lady in Trump?
Good.
Yes. So Trump's vision is basically a couple of years ago. Trump said, right, we got to get the space race back on, and Trump, like a lot of people of his ilk, sees space as a way of getting a bit of kudos. If he can get people walking on the moon in his presidency, that's going to go down pretty well, he thinks, with the
people
American
might forget about the
public.
horrific things that he's doing every day. However,
So they said, right, go back to the moon, and NASA said, yeah, we can do that by 2028. But surprisingly, earlier on this year, Mike Pence, the strange-looking man that is Mike Pence, that probably might even make a worse president than Trump.
yeah.
He
doesn't believe in evolution, does he?
No, he doesn't believe in evolution, doesn't believe in quite a few things. But he sort of said, no, the president has said he wants you to hurry up, no more excuses, you've got to get to the moon by 2024. Now, I do want a show of hands here. Who thinks that it is possible for mankind to get a couple of people on the moon by 2024 after hearing everything that I've said? Hands up now. We've got 2, 3, 4. Have we got... what percentage of the audience are we doing that is?
That was about 15%, I'd say.
15% of the audience. So you're not convinced. Let's go through the program. I suspect that you're not convinced because you're wiser than I don't know, but how much of the message of Artemis has got out to the general public? Probably not much in this country, but I wonder what it's like in America, whether they've got this message that yeah, we're going back to the moon, or whether they believe it or not. So anyway, this is Artemis Phase 1. So this is everything that needs to happen before 2024. So we're going to have Artemis 1 itself, which is the first space flight of a couple of systems that have cost the American taxpayer a lot of money.
This is
lot of money.
Uncrewed.
Uncrewed.
Artemis 1, no people on board, right?
No people on board. So this is going to be the first flight of a massive rocket called SLS, which stands for, and it's a really exciting name, Space Launch System. Right? Now, SLS really, all said and done, is a really clever way of getting the space shuttle and reordering the parts so it looks different. And it even uses the same engines of the space shuttle that were designed way back in the early 70s. But the clever design of SLS is that instead of reusing the engines each time, just like the space shuttle does, it dumps them in the sea.
Yeah.
So SLS, weird rocket, absolutely massive, costs an absolute fortune. The very first time it flies is when it takes humans to the moon. When it takes Orion. So Orion is a capsule just like the Apollo capsule, except quite a bit bigger, right? It's going to take that for a little journey around the moon. It's not going to land on the moon, it's just going to test it out in deep space. Deep space is a horrible place, by the way. It's like lots of radiation, it's super cold.
It's nice this time of year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is it because it's like Australia? Okay.
Seasons.
So you go out, it's super brutal. So spaceships are just like humans. They don't like being bombarded with radiation and stuff. So it's a good little test. You don't want to test your humans on that one, first of all. So that's apparently happening next year, right? Which would be awesome. If you want to get yourself a ticket for a space flight, go and book yourself a ticket for SLS Artemis 1, because that is going to be one humdinger of a launch, right?
Should it not be further delayed?
Should it be not further delayed by another 5 years? Yeah.
But one would assume, with the computing power that we've got today, a simulation would be enough. You don't need to test, do you?
Ooh.
Ooh. I'd say that they probably want to test.
Do you know what? I
before
think
they put people up there.
I think you're right. Actually, one big advance, you are right, one big advance in space technology has to be computer simulations and that element of it. However, no matter how many simulations you do, there's always something you haven't thought of.
This brings up the second question. All this knowledge from the Apollo program, it is documented, isn't it?
It is. But you know, a really interesting thing about the Apollo knowledge is imagine when they built the Saturn V. Yes, you can have engineering blueprints of Saturn V, but you actually need engineers and people that are artisan craftsmen building these things. And that's an awful lot of skill. So like the skill of just machining the parts of the F1 engines and things like that, that has all been lost. All that knowledge has been lost. You have to start from scratch. You can't just go, oh, we'll just build the Saturn V again. You can't. You actually couldn't do it. Even though you got the blueprints, it would be very, very difficult to rebuild Saturn V. But yeah, it's a good point. But I think with they have obviously done loads of simulations, and they're pretty convinced that the Orion spacecraft is going to go around the moon and it's going to be fine. You just wouldn't want to do it with humans.
Plus, could you imagine if they did do a simulation, then the first actual launch was with humans and something went wrong?
But they were thinking of it. They were thinking of putting humans on Artemis 1. About 2 years ago, and they said, yeah, let's have a look into it. And then they went, no, this really is ridiculous. Do you know what? John Young flew STS-1, the very first space shuttle, and that's still to this day considered the most maniac of all the space launches. For John Young to have flown that, it was just insane. But he did it. Apparently his heartbeat didn't even go up. He is the astronaut's astronaut, John Young. But STS-1, the first space shuttle flight, was so close to catastrophe. There was cracks everywhere. If they'd known about some of the damage on the space shuttle when they were actually up, they would have aborted the flight. But they didn't know about it until they got it back on the ground and went, oh my God, have you seen this crack and all that kind of stuff?
Talk about the heartbeat. Has anyone seen the film Free Solo? About the climber. So he climbed El Capitan in Yosemite in the States without a rope. Completely without a rope. And they said that they gave him a CAT scan. And a scientist was saying that the things that would excite you and me just don't excite this guy. And he's not bothered by it. So yeah, his heart rate stayed pretty okay. Terrifying.
And obviously that's one of the things that kind of gets most people out of the astronaut. Obviously, Jamie and I are fully fledged astronauts, so we have that skill.
Thanks for the suits. Thank you.
So yeah, we've got this first test. Then we do have a second test with Artemis going round, Artemis 2. sending off an Orion 2023, they reckon that's going to be 2022, 2023, and that's going to be with humans on board around the moon. Then a whole bunch of stuff to build what is known as probably the most contentious part of Artemis is the Lunar Gateway. The Lunar Gateway is this idea of having a space station around the moon. So they haven't even built this yet where it somehow has to be built and 3 human flights before 2024. So 2024 culminates in Artemis 3, where people fly out to the gateway and descend down to the moon, and it's going to be the first woman and the first man, well, the first woman to ever step on the moon and the first man since 1972. Artemis 2 will be the first humans that have left low Earth orbit since 1972. So you think about that, whoever gets picked for that Artemis 2 mission, that's going to be crazy. So that's Artemis 1. It's a complicated thing. Send out the Orion space probe. In Europe, actually, we should be pretty proud of ourselves because a major component of the Orion spacecraft is a European service module, which is a bit of a coup for ESA. They built that. It's really annoyed people like Lockheed who never got a look in. But that was part of the whole idea, was to involve the international community in helping out. These things are so expensive, you need everyone involved. But NASA are kind of going it a little bit alone with Artemis 1, which is a bit of a kind of Trump move.
Don't know about Lockheed, who are Lockheed?
So Lockheed are one of the big, enormous American military contractors, as are Boeing, and there's a few others. We've got McDonnell.
Why did you do that when you said
Boeing?
Lockheed, but then...
Well, Boeing, I don't know, Lockheed don't make passenger jets, do they?
Not now. Didn't they used to?
Yeah,
They still make planes, they just,
don't.
used for different things.
they make nice fighter jets for sure. Yeah.
Thomas Cook.
Yeah, and stealth bombers and things like that. But yeah, so these companies are huge companies. Whereas the Europeans are building a big chunk of this.
Contract to get, wouldn't it?
Yeah, weirdly, the actual European bit is based on the resupply, the European resupply craft that used to supply the International Space Station. So Europe spent a whole heap of money creating the ATV, which used to visit the International Space Station with loads of new spacesuits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Artemis 2, this is the one. This will be a good one, really. I guess humans going around the moon. And I suppose at this point, if this one has stuck to 2022 or 2023, we might actually see someone get to the moon in the next 5 years, which I think should be pretty exciting. So if this one's happening, we should be pretty excited. However, in the meantime, we've got this dude, Elon Musk, who's out in the desert building things like this. And it looks totally ridiculous. But the thing about Elon Musk is he said he's going to build stuff, and he has built stuff, and it's kind of worked. So this one, he's got the backing of a Japanese guy to do, what's it called, Dream Moon? Hashtag?
Yeah, Dear Moon.
Dear Moon. Hashtag Dear Moon.
Hands up who knows about Dear Moon project? No?
So this was big news about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And it was a Japanese mega businessman basically has rocked up to Musk and said, yeah, I'll take a Starship around the moon in 2023. So that's the reason why I put that next to that one, is apparently we're going to be seeing a Japanese businessman and a bunch of artists, floating around in a Starship going around the moon, copying essentially Artemis 2. So there's a little bit of a commercial NASA space race going on. So that might be one of the things that spurs it on. So actually, we haven't got all our eggs in one basket when it comes to visiting the moon. This guy and a few other space billionaires, you have Jeff Bezos's and your Richard Branson's, although I don't think Richard Branson's quite in the moon business. But you never know, he might suddenly pop up with a lunar lander. And then Artemis 3. This is this is unusual mission compared to Apollo. What makes it different? Jamie, do you know what makes this one
Tell me,
different?
Matt.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you, or are you going to tell me?
No, you go.
Okay.
Go on, you go.
So we've got this thing called the Lunar Gateway, and this is see the red orbit around the moon? It's in this bizarre polar orbit around the moon. But the good thing about that is it means that when Orion docks with it, it can go to anywhere on the moon. It's very, very hard to go to the poles of the moon otherwise. It's quite easy to come off the Earth's equator and then hit the moon's equator and land somewhere on the equator. So actually, the Apollo missions had only a very, very narrow landing window on the moon where they could go. Artemis is going to try to do something else, because why do we want to go to the poles of the moon, Jamie?
To see the Aurora Borealis, of course.
Oh, Jamie. No, it's because there might be... What's the coolest thing in the universe?
Ice cool.
Ice cool. It is ice cool. Water. There might be water at the poles on the moon.
Gas station of the solar system.
And then you've got yourself a gas station and in situ resources, right? And in situ resources is kind of the next step in space exploration.
So Matt, what you're saying is you can break the water down into hydrogen and oxygen and make rocket fuel.
And make rocket fuel. And drink it.
What?
Right. So, yeah, you can make things like alcohol.
Yeah, could you make beer on the moon?
Don't see why not. Don't see why not.
Get some hops up there.
So you've actually got this opportunity now to go to the South Pole. In the meantime, actually, we should have pointed out, in the meantime, there's other little things that have been going on during Artemis, between Artemis 1 and Artemis 3, and that's people going back to the moon, commercial providers dropping things like little rovers off and little scientific experiments, and they're all going to the poles to see how easy it is to get to this water. If you can get to this water and you can start practicing this ISRU, in situ resource utilisation, if you can practice that, then maybe you've got a chance of getting to Mars and surviving it. But if you can't...
Has anyone seen the film Moon by Duncan Jones? It's a great film. If you haven't seen it, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I love Moon.
Yeah.
Good soundtrack.
Yeah.
Moon's a good film. This is Jamie's job to try and throw me off my stride.
Yeah, sorry. As you were, Matt.
Yeah, thanks. This is it. They're going to fly off on an Orion capsule, dock with the Lunar Gateway. At the Lunar Gateway, there should be this descending vehicle that descends down into a lower orbit around the moon. And from that lower orbit, you've got another vehicle that then comes off that, drops down to the moon. You have your first man and woman step onto the moon, stay there for 6 or 7 days apparently for the first one, or maybe longer actually, and then they fly off on yet another vehicle that flies back up to meet the gateway, and then they get back in their Orion capsule that are docked at the gateway and go home.
Job done. Easy.
Job done. You say it's job done. There's something about that sounds incredibly complicated.
But I suppose there would be many more missions in order to build the gateway.
Here we go. I'm going to do exactly that.
Funny you should say that.
So these are the things that are going to land in the meantime. But let's get past the gateway. There is like a big. There we go. That's all the stuff that's happening between now and 2024. So you've got the major ones, but down there, yes, there's little bits that are arriving. So if you can see in 2024, you've got these 3 commercial launches that are launching. Yeah, the vehicle that takes them down into a lower orbit, the vehicle that takes them down to the moon's surface, and the vehicle that takes them back up again, right? So all those 3 vehicles are going to be arriving at the gateway, apparently, via commercial providers. So that there's only 2 rockets capable of doing it at the moment, and that's the Delta IV Heavy and the Falcon Heavy. And you've possibly got Jeff Bezos, who's been frantically selling his shares of Amazon to build himself an enormous rocket. So that one might be available as well. So who knows? It's bizarre. There's a guy there's literally...
That just shows you how much money Amazon has.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, literally, Jeff Bezos is the ultimate Bond villain. He's literally in a lair somewhere, and he's been doing it for years, selling off all his money.
It's a white cat.
And he's bald as well. He's
Is
totally.
that what you need?
Yeah, you need to be
Okay.
bald,
Bald cat. Swivel chair.
massive business,
Sharks with a
a bit weird. Yeah, and sharks with lasers. So that's all the kind of stuff that's going. There's a lot of stuff going to the moon. A lot of things have to come together for 2024 to happen, right? Still, it's quite funny. The NASA administration are a lot happier with 2028, but the American administration are the people saying, no, it has to be done by 2024. And then they're not even the people that sign the checks. So you've even got, I'm not an American politician expert by any stretch of imagination, but I know that it's Congress that signs the checks. They're not massive fans of this, apart from the odd congressman who happens to have his state where the SLS is built. So you have people that are literally going, yeah, this is a really great idea because this thing brings their state like £2 billion worth of business each year.
nice job.
So it's getting invited by that. There's a couple of house committees that have already put a few butts.
Yeah.
Delayed it by a couple of months already.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, which you can see just coming down the line, month after month, of a kind of nah. You're going to have to go back and do this. Which is there's a kind of safety element. Do you really want to push all those? If you think about the vehicle that takes you down into low lunar orbit, the vehicle that takes them down to the moon's surface, and the vehicle that takes them back up to the gateway, it's the first time they've ever been used. So we were going back to like this thing of, they've got to work, but it's the first time they're ever going to be used is on this 2024 mission. So there's a little bit of me that feels quite queasy that all of those things have got to work for your first man and woman to survive. This is, it ain't, you one mistake out there and it's game over, right? It's, although...
You felt queasy just on the VR.
I did felt queasy just trying to catch
By the
on.
way, is anyone who's done the VR exercise? You haven't done it. A few people have done it. It might be the best thing I've ever done, genuinely. So make sure you go and see these guys who work here. By the way, thank you so much for letting us do this.
Yeah.
Round of applause for the
Spacestore.
Yeah, so behind here, what's it called? Experience Zone. You can try on these, look like us.
You don't have to look like us.
Well, and and try various different VR experiences. It's wicked.
The best thing to do, by the way, if you do the Soyuz one, where you lift off on a Soyuz and go into space, wear the exact same clothes that they're wearing, and then mimic the movement, and then you actually genuinely feel you're there, man.
Yeah, we were there.
I actually thought
Matt
I'd
got
been
a bit emotional. Yeah.
I did.
I haven't seen you fill up before. You really were going.
Yeah. I filled up my spacesuit. Luckily these things have got a nappy in, right? We've got quite a lot going on. So we've got all those different missions. We've got new spacesuits. So these were revealed the other day. Nice new spacesuits. There's something I've learnt about spacesuits over the last year or so is the ones. Did anyone see the mishap where they wanted to have the first all-female spacewalk? And then as they were about to do it, they went, oh no, we haven't quite got the right sizes up on the space station. You think, oh well, next time they fly up, they can take the right size up. But it's just, when you hear why that is, it's because the spacesuits were designed in the 70s. Half of them were built at the end of the 70s. They only built like 12 of them, of which only 8 now work. And they're the ones that everyone uses. So when you see Tim Peake out or any of the other astronauts, they are wearing these same spacesuits that were made ages ago. And of course, back in the early 70s and 60s when they were designed, they were thinking that all astronauts were men. So there probably was a legacy of sexism that was in there. So these new spacesuits, they're a little bit more flexible in terms of the way that you can get different sized people in them. They are specifically for moonwalking as well. So they have like a beveled edge in the middle so you can actually shift around in them. When you saw the moonwalkers before, they're doing that kind of horrible walking. They don't need to do that in these spacesuits. You can actually sort of kind of properly walk and you can bend down and pick stuff up a lot easier. So these spacesuits, it's a bit weird because really they look very similar to the old spacesuits. Not much has changed since Apollo. Again, it's like incremental advances. There's nothing super amazing about either of these spacesuits. They're kind of very similar to the ones that have been around for 50 years, really. There's nothing super new about them, but they are pretty cool. They are pretty cool spacesuits.
But material technology has progressed significantly since.
Well, weirdly, a lot of the material technology, that progression of that material technology was from the Apollo missions.
Really?
Like things like Kevlar and all those kind of elements that go in the spacesuits were from designing spacesuits. So actually, I'm not sure that there's been too much improvement in those. Yeah, I mean, incremental ones. Obviously, I think things like graphene, if you could have fabric graphene, you'd be laughing, but we're not there yet. But maybe soon. Maybe there'll be a quantum leap in some form of technology that allows us to do
nappies.
There's better nappies.
Better nappies.
But amazingly, they still wear nappies. It's pretty grim. In fact, that's actually, I don't want to go into too many details. That's one of the problems about female astronauts, actually. It's harder to do that element of it.
It's not a problem, it's a challenge, man.
It's a challenge.
Shame.
Yeah, yes.
Plus, if you get to try these on in the Spacestore, Steve at the back, or I'm sure one of your colleagues, tell you all of the facts that we didn't know about half of these things, did we?
Yeah, no. Thank you. Thanks.
So, yeah. Pressure, releasing pressure, oxygen, electrics. What have I missed?
Helmet. Don't forget your helmet.
Good.
So yeah, spacesuits. There's two different types of spacesuits, by the way. We're wearing a type of spacesuit that you couldn't go outside of a spaceship in. These are for inside your space. They're pressure suits, really. They're based on the same things that fighter pilots used to wear and still do. So they're for inside the spacecraft, just in case the spacecraft loses pressure, right? Whereas the full-on spacesuit, your EVA, your extravehicular activities, suit is for going outside of your spaceship. In fact, it kind of is a spaceship in itself. So you have got your own tiny little spaceship that you're in. Hence, they're insanely expensive.
Yeah.
Like just stupidly expensive.
We both agreed, I think, that we prefer the orange ones. No offence to the Spacestore, but I think that's because of Luke Skywalker, isn't it?
Yeah.
When did he wear the orange suit? Anyone know?
1977.
He's piloting the X-wing.
Here we go.
What
He's
is?
piloting the X-wing.
And that is in the original Star Wars, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. They probably. Yeah, they do look cool. But why orange, Jamie? Why orange?
I actually don't know that. Tell me.
Does anyone?
It's a pilot suit, it's the uniform they use in the door.
Yeah, but why orange?
High visibility.
Okay, so if you look at most of the inspiration of what, most of the inspiration is from like fighter pilot suits at the time, right?
Yeah.
Right. What does that look like if anybody knows what they went up in a U-2 spy plane or a SR-71? It's the same suit.
It's exactly the same suit, but they're orange. So if you have to bail out, because you could be bailing out anywhere. If you bail out, at least people can see you on the ground in the snow and out in the thing. So the orange is so you can be spotted in the boats. You don't think?
Some of the military ones are green.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, you don't want to hide your astronauts in a forest because if you're in the military, you definitely want to be inconspicuous, to say the least. Yeah. So just a quick one about SLS. This is what I was saying about it being the space shuttle. If you remember the big orange tank of the space shuttle, it's become slightly elongated. You've still got the space shuttle's boosters either side. They're a little bit better. And the engines on the bottom of SLS are exactly the same ones that were on the bottom of the space shuttle as well. So it's not particularly different.
Tried and tested.
It's tried and tested. Yeah, I mean that is it. I mean the only good thing is it's pretty tried and tested technologies, which is one of the reasons why they were thinking of putting people on it for the very first flight. So it should be a reliable launch vehicle, but then that's what they said about the space shuttle. And that ended quite badly a couple of times. So ever since those two shuttle disasters, NASA's taken space safety a hell of a lot more seriously.
How does the Saturn V compare to the size of it?
It's about the same size. So you put them next to each other, about the same size. Saturn V is actually more powerful than most of those versions that you can see. It's only when you get to these Block 2 versions that those ones are actually more powerful than the Saturn V.
compared to his insane.
Well, no, the Falcon Heavy is nothing compared to those as well. It's like they're in a kind of different league by the time you get to the Block 2 version of it. You can lift a hell of a lot of stuff up into.
And the type of fuel is the same. It's nothing has changed in the.
I mean, the whole of space history has been like littered with trying to find different types of propellant, and they've all got their sort of ups and downs. What's good and what's bad. There's things like if you've got the most common one is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, LOX fuel, and you just mix the two together. Bang, you get byproduct of water. It's a really, really good, efficient fuel. However, they don't crush down particularly well, so you get bigger tanks. So you use RP1, which is a type of kerosene, is that right? And that means you can have a slightly smaller tank. So sometimes the first stage of those big rockets have a slightly different mix of ignition materials.
We learned a bit about propane, didn't we, Matt, last year?
So there's a British launch company that are trying to use camping gas or propane to get into.
Because that's what's available.
So we thought
gas. Do you know, well, it's because of its physical properties. You can kind of keep it in the same tank as your oxidizer. It's greener. And then Elon Musk, of course, is going into methane. Now methane, because it's such a smaller carbon atom, it doesn't coke up your engine. So if you've got a lot of reusable flights where you want to keep using the same rocket engine over and over and over again, you want a propellant that doesn't coke your stuff up. So he's moved to methane. It's got a slightly smaller specific impulse, its efficiency, but you gain by the fact that you can keep using it over and over again. And he's keeping another eye on the fact that on Mars you can make methane reasonably easily using the Sabatier process.
Good.
So yeah, thanks.
He also wants to. Does he still want to nuke Mars?
He still wants to nuke Mars. Yeah. Although it would make absolutely no difference whatsoever. There was some kind of, that hurricane that hit America quite recently. Even that's like something like the energy in that hurricane is something like 100,000 times more than all the nuclear bombs put together. Right. It was ridiculous. So yes, it won't make any difference. That's SLS. That's Orion with the European module behind. Orion is the little capsule on the bit.
Up to 4 people you can
up to.
Fit on Orion?
Do you know what? I was trying to find this out. 4 seems a disappointingly small number, right?
Nice, doesn't it?
But yeah, 4 people. I think that's how many people will travel to the gateway. 4 will travel to the gateway, and only 2 will go down to the surface of the moon. And one of the other reasons why you've got a gateway as well, so you can practice being in space for absolutely ages. On your way to Mars, you have to stay in space for 6 to 8 months. So you're going to be out there for a long time. So that's another reason to have the gateway. But it does make everything way more complicated and way more expensive. So it's probably the most hated bit of this Artemis program, if I'm honest. So recently we had NASA announced this little fella called Viper.
Tell your joke, Matt, that you told me earlier.
Yeah. Why did the Viper nose? Because the adder handkerchief.
Oh, that was bad.
Sorry. My dad
went down worse than I thought.
Yeah, my dad used to tell me that and used to think it was very funny.
You didn't even get a snigger.
I know. All I just got was, what a... Right. So yeah, that's the Viper rover. So that's one that's going to be out looking for ice, and NASA announced that quite recently. That's one of these things called CLIPS, which is the commercial lunar program, where they're going to be landing lots of different rovers and things, and everyone can get involved in that. You could even get involved in it yourself, put a proposal forward, and that's the whole thing. That is Artemis. So, Jamie, what do you think? Do you think we're going back to the moon in 2024?
I don't think it's going to be 2024. I'm saying 2026.
2026?
Yeah, a couple of years back.
Anyone wants to go earlier than 2026?
Commercially or institutionally?
Boots on the ground.
No, boots on the ground. Boots on the ground.
Commercially or institutionally?
Okay, commercially. So you think commercial's going to beat...
I mean, commercial has more numbers. I mean, they don't really care as much as private money.
Yeah.
China are also trying to get people on the moon. You know, they'd like to be here. They've got some money.
Yeah, well, even India have a human space program.
But that's a very important topic. What are the commercial incentives of being
Told
engaged?
you, engagement rings made out of moon rock.
Yeah.
Moon Express, they said that's part of their going to be their.
I don't believe that.
Taking your dad's
I
ashes to be
swear,
spread on the
swear.
moon. No, I'm not even joking. That Jamie isn't
I'm
joking.
sure-
I'm genuinely not lying.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to the Interplanetary podcast,
Yeah,
I suppose I don't know your name, but
Yeah.
You're right. I think it's more probable that the delay will be down to negotiations that are going on rather than technology or money.
Yeah, no, for commercial people to go to the moon, there has to be something that you can turn into money, right? And it's, as we've said, it's
Legislation, for
really
example.
expensive. Yeah,
yeah, that is only a part of what
yeah,
they're not
well,
just going to the moon to make engagement rings. But
Exactly.
seriously, that's
It's a-
part of what they want to do.
we could do a whole
But
podcast
do we
about
know
the
anything
legislation,
about that, or is just
about the legislation element.
yeah, about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
negotiations that are going on and
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are the real commercial incentives?
We could do 1,000 podcasts on the kind of negotiations. I mean, there's the Outer Space Treaty and how that is affecting how we try and go out into the solar system. No one's going to go to the moon to start mining something if someone can just like park right next to you and mine it as well.
Exactly.
So a bit of the Outer Space Treaty has to change, or at least be completely flouted by someone. I can't help feeling that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos wouldn't give a shit about the Outer Space Treaty.
Their main business plan is logistics.
Yeah.
Develop the technology to be able to go to the moon, you can do logistics locally, you can do logistics medium Earth orbit, you can do logistics in between gateways, logistics. That's where the money was.
Yeah, I mean, you could consider what NASA and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos doing is what the people that built the railroads did back in the
Infrastructure.
in frontier America. It's like what was it? There was nothing in it for them other than to be the people that built the infrastructure, and you have to wait a long time before you get that money back. So, like, it is normally government funding that builds things like HS2 and stuff like that. You can't just. It's no commercial person's going to go into that. So, but yeah, what is there? What is there on the moon? Well, one of the reasons why we haven't been in a rush to go back to the moon is commercial. There's not much that you can mine on the moon. However, it's going to be a different story when it's things like asteroids and Mars, maybe. I mean, asteroids is an interesting one. When the Earth formed, all the heavy metals fell down into the core of the Earth, and we've got maybe the odd bit of platinum here and there where we've been struck by asteroids. But on asteroids, it's a completely different thing. The gravity hasn't sucked it all down, so there's literally gold and platinum on the surface just knocking about. So you can see a commercial case for going out to asteroids and mining it. But you need to learn all this stuff on the moon. You need to learn all this stuff in the moon. Is what I think going back to the moon makes sense. But in fact, show of hands, who wants to go back to the moon, or who? I'm going to do a question: Moon or Mars, right? Who wants to go straight to Mars, or who wants to go to the moon first and practice all the stuff? So first of all, who wants to go to the moon? Hands up. Wow. Who wants to go straight for Mars? Who wants to do a Bobby Z? A Bobby Z. Yeah. What's your reasoning for wanting to go straight to Mars?
Because I'm old.
Because you. Oh yes.
You've seen the moon.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, one-way mission to Mars is feasible, I think. But would you be up for a one-way mission to Mars?
Yeah.
Are you his wife? What do you think about his one-way mission to Mars? You like the idea?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it then, you're off, pack your things.
Pack your bags.
But there's another reason for that. Usually entrepreneurs do the big step and then leave the rest to all the smaller problems to the rest of the people to deal with them, and then they move ahead as well. So moving straight to Mars may force the intermediate steps anyway. But we have already done, I suppose, one.
We've already been.
Already, those
We've
Steps
already,
have already been done.
yeah, we've already been to the
In a way,
moon.
yeah.
It
one
is a bit of a
government
weird
could
one. isn't it?
launch to go straight to Mars, and then another government could beat them and go to the moon. Because it takes how long to get to Mars, Matt?
Yeah, 8 months if
How
you're
long to
lucky.
get to the moon?
A couple of days.
There you go. Just saying. China might beat you.
Are there any votes in going to the moon? It doesn't seem to be you're going to get people voting for it. You know, how many votes is Trump going to get?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. This is the most fragile space program ever, and I think you're absolutely right. It all comes down to votes. If Trump gets in again, second term,
Show of hands. Who thinks Trump's getting in again? You do? And are you the only any other Americans here?
I must admit, I think he's going to get in again. Who wants him to get in again?
That's if he doesn't get impeached in the first place.
Yeah, that's true. I think trying to impeach him might be the thing that gets him back in.
Seems impossible.
Yeah, there's still hope, yes. Yeah, so this is fragile. This is fragile. If you have another administration come in, it's no longer their plan. And then it's back to the drawing board. And this is kind of really what's happened to NASA for the last 50 years. We should have made that more a political point. It's never really had a stable space plan ever since the space shuttle that kind of went a bit awry. And it's like, yeah, this didn't turn out how we thought it was going to turn out. And it's been wandering around like a sort of dazed old man.
It's true. Were
Wonder
you
what-
mentioning asteroids earlier? So we interviewed a guy, do you remember the guy from Scotland, from the asteroid mining company? Plans to go and mine asteroids in the future. And he was talking to us about how there's all these asteroids in our asteroid belt that have the billions of pounds worth of metals.
Oh,
on them.
it's not billions, it's not even trillions, it's septillions, isn't it?
Septillions,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, how many billions is that, man?
It's like billions of billions.
Mathematicians.
This belt is beyond Mars or in between us and Mars?
It's in between us. Beyond.
Between
Beyond.
Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah. But not much beyond, but it is beyond.
But we were excited about when they were talking about the figures until Matt told me how much it might actually cost to go and mine them.
Yeah.
Probably cost about the same.
Well, yeah, if you go, I mean, it's ludicrous.
Quite a lot.
It's so hard to go out to an asteroid and mine it and bring it back again. But people are thinking about it. You know, there are a really interesting company to look at is a company called Made in Space. And Made in Space have actually started to manufacture things in space. They have a little tiny 3D printer up on the space station that prints fibre optic cable. And the fibre optic cable, because it's in 0G, is this really amazing Z-band fibre optic cable. And it means that it's like super, super efficient fibre optic cable.
Pressurized environment.
So again?
What happens in zero G? Look at orbit fat. They're trying to do stuff in orbit and 3D print like parts in orbit. That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Metals interior. and like no atmosphere is very, very different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The space, but it's interesting. Companies are starting to think about manufacturing in space. I think that's all that you can really say about it at the moment. It's like if they're trying it and they're getting some results, they've made a commercial. In fact, do you know if the Made in Space is the first commercial product in space that they've actually made in space and sold it commercially on Earth?
Probably.
I think it is. So it's kind of started, and like if you look at any technology, once it starts to roll out and become a thing. But whether the moon's part of that, I don't know. I don't know whether that anyone's ever going to go to the moon and turn it into a sort of viable business. I think it may be turned into like you said, a gas station.
Yeah.
Might be turned into a gas station where you can go build massive infrastructure and then head out into the solar system. It's back to that thing. The moon is so much smaller than the Earth. It's much, much easier to get off. You just need one poxy rocket engine to get yourself back off the moon. It's what Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. It's the riskiest part of Apollo was precisely that. The riskiest part of Apollo was was that final coming off the moon, because you've only got one rocket engine. If that didn't fire, you're stuffed, basically. And the president had a prepared speech for if that happened.
Have you ever read that? You can see it online. It's the speech that the president wrote in case there was deaths or it went wrong or the rocket blew up. It's already pre-written out, ready for him to read.
If they had to leave Armstrong and Buzz on the moon.
And they
It's heartbreaking. It's one. It's really. If you do choke up reading it, it's so worth reading.
Matt asked me to, for one episode, come up with some interesting facts about the Apollo missions, and one of them was that the astronauts realised that they couldn't, of course, get life insurance, because what insurance company is going to be crazy enough to say, yeah, I'll cover you? So what they did was they got the wives of the astronauts, got them all these different things to sign, just in case they died up there, and that they could sell these items, and that was what they had to cling on to a bit of money.
Yeah,
Quite interesting.
Space is dangerous.
It is.
Is it about 50% chance of survival?
Yeah, well, that's what Michael Collins says in his book, that when he dropped Neil and Buzz off at the moon, he, in his head, that was the number he was playing with, 50% chance that he'd see his friends again.
So brave.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy, isn't it, really? And it's only because you have Armstrong, who's one of the best, most level-headed fighter pilots of all time, flying it down onto the ground. He'd already proved he could cope with like 3 different emergencies of epic proportions and survive them.
But we've been
We've
been lucky enough to interview about a dozen astronauts since we've been doing the podcast over the last 2 or 3 years, and we started to ask a few of them if they were how scared were they, and none of them said that because the training is so intense that anything that goes wrong, they know what to do, and that they have to be calm. And of course, it's easy to say to someone before they've ever gone up. But most of them said, well, I wasn't scared. We trained within an inch of our lives. Every little step for years.
Well, you're taught not to be scared, because being scared is counterproductive to a dangerous situation, right? So
pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, that's.
We also always asked them what food they miss. We asked, who was the first person? It was Al Worden, wasn't it?
Yeah, Al Worden. Yeah.
First person we asked.
Apollo astronaut Al Worden. What food did he miss?
He said vodka and spaghetti. That was the 2 things.
Yeah, vodka and spaghetti.
Flying around the moon. Furthest apart from human.
Both of them sources of energy.
Yeah, back to
Oh yeah. A little bit more than the dried ice cream.
Yeah, the Russians used to take up vodka quite a bit because the physician said it would really help their vitality.
They'll miss things a lot more going to Mars then, won't they? Taking
The Mars thing, I think with Mars, I think the biggest barrier is psychology. I think we're not even close to working out.
Explain the Mars event we went to many moons ago.
Oh yeah, we did a Mars event, and it was like looking at all the different things that you could. What were the problems of getting to Mars, and how would you solve them? So it was like a brainstorming session.
It was mental health, the journey of going to Mars and the mental health aspects, and what would help you for 8 months living in a tin can. And there was lots of things that came up.
VR was a big one. So like if you try doing the VR stuff and you think, actually it is fooling my brain emotionally, but I wonder on a 6-month journey if it carries on fooling your brain, and we just don't know the answer to the questions and things like that. So
because Tim Peake did a marathon on the space station, and they said to him, where do you want to run? And he said the Highlands, Scottish Highlands. And so they did a video of 26.3 miles or whatever it is, and that's where he ran. And so he said that was such a big thing for him. Obviously it's speaking to the family. Weather is another one that was in Interstellar.
Yeah, it's
where the guy is upset, and then the person puts the headphones on him, and it's just rain, sounds of rain, and just that experience of smells and weather. Quite interesting. Any other ideas about how to cope with mental health when you go to space? There's no right answer. I'm just curious.
Living room at home.
VR your own living room. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Familiar things.
Yeah.
How do you cope with conversations with loved ones when they're delayed by 8 minutes and 16 minutes, and then you can't do it at all because the sun's in the way?
Perhaps if you take your partner with you, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
That's one option.
Well, that's why I was thinking about the first man and woman on the moon. They should send a couple so they can be the first people to do it on the moon. Have I brought the whole show?
I thought you weren't going to speak about this.
So,
we were talking about if you were conceived on the moon, would you be allowed into Europe post Brexit?
Multiple European, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the law of the sea, so you.
Which colour passport would you have, that kind of thing?
Vessel. So the ISS would have, the ISS actually has Russian, American, and European legislation all at once. There's actually one point where it's neither, but it's basically international waters.
There we go.
So it's the law of the vessel. Oh.
So if the vessel is registered in, say, the UK,
So we need an Irish vessel. And then I can travel freely for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not talk about Brexit. I brought it up, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Sorry.
Yeah, that'd be annoying if you were born in the European bit and then couldn't get back into Britain. It would suck.
Not in this.
Oh no, but saying that, so that's an interesting one. The European bit's built by the European Space Agency, and the European Space Agency isn't a European body.
Ooh.
So where's it registered?
yeah, that's the thing.
So just a spacecraft registered in a country then?
Then you're looking at.
Oh, this is
You're
interesting.
looking at the country of the launch origin, the rocket registration. There's different levels to this. So if you launch a rocket from, say, the French Guiana, it's the sovereign country, which would be France's responsibility to make sure that it doesn't mess up on top of any other country. But then you also have the company, because the company, if it was an American company launching from the French Guiana, you would also have an American responsibility for and so on and so forth. It's all about registrations on what.
How do you know this? Do you work in the industry, or are you just a
I work in
hobbyist?
the industry.
There we go.
I found ourselves a co-host. So,
Do you mind us asking who you work for?
Oxford Space Systems. She's the CEO though.
Ah.
CEO of Oxford. And you wanted to go to Mars direct?
If you've got my wife, you'd want to go with us too.
Oh, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
That's how you know where to go.
That's great.
Nice. Yeah. That's interesting though. Yeah, Columbus is the European module on the space station, right? So that's built in Italy.
So if it's built in Italy, it would probably have Italian registration, so therefore it would be Italy, therefore Europe's.
But it's launched in from Cape Canaveral probably.
If it's launched in Cape Canaveral, then the US would have certain implications in the flights. It's very complex to unpack.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I suppose let's not worry about it. No one's going to give birth anytime soon in space.
One of the insurance companies would.
Yeah. So yeah, has anyone got any questions? We can do a Q&A. Carry on this Q&A.
Yeah, big time. Any questions?
Well, the tiny question I've got is, you mentioned about the Apollo program, about Kennedy having prepared a speech in case everything went wrong. But I think that there was backup fuel on this lunar module.
No, there's nothing you can do if it was Nixon actually, I think, that wrote the speech because Kennedy had been assassinated. But it's all to do with the firing of the rocket engine itself. You could have all the fuel in the world, but if the rocket engine don't fire, that's it. It's game over. It's like an unfixable problem. So it's a very reliable system, but not 100% perfect by any stretch of imagination. It really was one of the most kind of deadly things. They had a similar thing on Apollo 8, where there was one rocket burn that had to happen when they were going around the moon to get them back to Earth. And if that doesn't happen, you just go flying out into deep space and it's game over. So there's been quite a few of those moments where it's like, yep, this is it. Oh, thank goodness for that. So yeah, it doesn't matter that you've got that extra fuel. Armstrong had that extra fuel as he's going down trying to find somewhere to land. I mean, that is ice cool right there. You're going down to land on the moon for the first time, and you go, oh my God, it's completely covered in rocks. You know, it's just crazy covered in rocks, and you think, I just don't know where to land. But he just stays calm. To be fair, I'm amazed Buzz Aldrin stays calm. Imagine being the backseat driver on that one. Go, well, where are you going to touch down? We should get out of here. But yeah, they're both cool as, they must have trusted each other absolutely implicitly to go, yeah, fine. I know that Armstrong's...
He only got angry when he came home and people said, you didn't go to the moon, and he knocks them out. You all seen that video? Buzz Aldrin punch, it's brilliant. It's really satisfying. Must have watched that 20 times over.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So I'm not encouraging violence. Can you imagine if you went and someone went, no, you didn't go, come on, tell the truth. God damn.
So who You don't still think we didn't go to the moon, do you?
I believe it now.
Right.
Just one last
Go on then.
You mentioned Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Do you know how close, is it the Blue Origin?
Yeah.
This company, do you know how close they are to taking people for a trip to space?
That trip to space
It
thing.
comes down in a few minutes.
It was actually supposed to be this year. They were going to try and squeeze one in this year, but it should be next year. They should do it next year. The big race there is between Branson and Bezos for that particular trip bit. But there's something I must admit when there's a video of the mannequin inside that capsule going up, and you can sort of do the experience kind of, and I'm thinking, yeah, I think I might be a little bit annoyed for 200 grand that's what I got. I think it'd be amazing. I'd pay a few grand to do it, but
yes.
But then someone said, oh yeah, but you do know it costs 400 grand to rent a yacht for a week, and I went, yeah, and then you stick it into that context, and it's like, well, yeah, of course, it's for the wealthy. It's
What kind
actually
of yachts are you renting?
well, you know,
400 grand.
yeah, that's the cheap one. That's the
You and your gold taps.
that's the one I come out of Ilfracombe to go to Lundy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be that should be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be a lot sooner than that. And I think there could be a really exciting development on that one is that you've got a couple of spaceports opening up in Britain that are hosting the Virgin Orbit. But in hosting Virgin Orbit, which is basically an orbital rocket that launches from the bottom of a 747, one of Virgin's Cosmic Girl, it's called, and it launches off and it launches off for launching reasonably small satellites. But part of that means, of course, you've got Virgin at your airport, so there could be Virgin Galactic flights out of Cornwall or Swansea or something like that. So in the next few years, we might see space flights out of the UK, which would be pretty exciting, I think. Yeah.
Now, I've got a question. If I enjoyed tonight and I didn't know about the Interplanetary podcast, where would I go to get some
I would go to www.interplanetary, spelt interplanetary, .org.uk.
.org.uk?
.org.
And what would I find on this website?
You'd find lots of interesting content.
Right.
We normally do a little blog of each episode,
Nice.
Weekly episode, I might point out.
Oh, those guys work hard.
Weekly episode, God knows why.
Yeah.
And yes, and you'll also find little links out to interesting places like our merch store. If you feel like wearing a T-shirt,
Are we on Instagram?
we are on Instagram as well.
Nice.
And what else could we do? And then we've got a beautiful little Patreon site.
Patreon, you say?
I'm going to thank our Patreons right now because they paid for our car journey.
Thank you, patrons.
Yes. So they paid for everything. Little Patreon site where you can just donate. I'm always amazed by this, that there is actually a place which actually works, where if people listen to the podcast and they just, out of the kindness of their heart, they donate. And the people
What benefits do you get if you become a patron?
Well, yeah, I think you get like, depending on what level you go, but you get things like a T-shirt and a mug. Like, yeah.
Ooh.
But you also get, the best bit about it is you get to join our Discord, and Discord is like a sort of messaging, sort of closed messaging place where we all chat with one another. And I have to say, the legends on the Discord, and we get new ones every day,
Sounds
are
like
literally
they're
they're legends.
produce the show.
They are producing the show. They're even writing elements of the show. So we have been influenced by our Patreons, and they're writing elements. They're even going to start sending in their own interviews soon as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, we interview probably every other week. We have an interview. At the moment, we've got a lot backed up, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got some good ones coming up as well.
As I say, you can listen back. Brian Blessed, Tim Peake, Helen Sharman, Marcus Allen, the moon hoaxer guy.
Helen Sharman was the first Brit to wear one of these
Yes, she
so-called
was.
spacesuits
And
into.
Did you know
into
Helen Sharman
space.
helped develop making Mars ice cream?
Yeah,
Totally true.
If you ever have Mars ice cream, Helen Sharman.
She was part of the crew.
Yeah.
So there we go. Double legend. Yeah.
I mean, amazing that Mars ice cream. I still think
Who'd have
that's
thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah. So please check us out. Like, we really appreciate you coming down, and it'd be great if you went away and at least listened to the first 5 minutes of one. If you like it, maybe you can hit subscribe.
Or a like. go to iTunes and like us. That's a good
Yeah,
one. That's a good one.
as well.
I'm going to there's one little thing that I've just thought about. That, you know, I mentioned the two ladies that did the first ever all-female spacewalk.
Yeah.
One of those, of course, might be the first woman on the moon.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be quite a cool one.
We'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.